Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download at audiblepodcast.com/Sorgatron Media. Over 75,000 titles to choose from for your iPod, iPhone, or MP3 player.
I'm getting awesome, you're getting awesome, we're getting awesome, yeah, that's what I said now. I'm getting awesome, you're getting awesome, we're getting awesome, yeah, that's what I said.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is AwesomeCast number 4. As always, here is Mike Sorg right here, joining you. And we've cobbled together, so we have the video tonight. Oh, that's the wrong button. Rob, how you doing?
I actually come to our audience tonight with a public service announcement. There is no such thing as an iTouch. Knock it off.
Thanks. And of course, our guest for tonight is John Carman of the G Spod and Avenue. Hold on, I pulled the thing. I can't remember you. What's the name of your other company?
It does. I don't even know. I really only started the other company so I could be a CEO.
Oh, there you go. AvenueDesignStudios.com is your other one. And, of course, Ajax Straight. And, of course, the G Spod is a fantastic show that you do over there.
And we will talk about that in a little more detail later when we get to the podcasting segment.
Yes. Oh, he has a run sheet. He's all about following it tonight.
Wow.
It's fantastic. Wow. You're a good guest.
I read it. Well, at least skimmed it.
Well, let's get right into it, of course. A little bit of cleanup from E3 last week, and we'll get into that iTouch stuff in a moment. But first of all, I just a couple of stories I thought were interesting. Of course, I've been following for a while this OnLive stuff. If you guys haven't heard, it's this completely cloud-based video gaming. We mentioned, I think, a little bit last week. When we were going over E3, but they are launching this month, I believe, and they have an offer right now for the first so many members to sign up will get a free subscription for a year, which is a pretty big deal because it's $15 a month just to be there. Yeah,
and they also, I believe, just today because a lot of people were curious about if it was going to run on mobile devices, and today it was demoed on the iPad, and they did say that it will run on basically any Intel-based devices.
How do you play it on the iPad? Do you use a controller, or do you actually like touch screen?
That's an excellent question. I don't know.
There was actually a video I spotted from E3. Whoop, that's the wrong button too. From E3 where, basically the entire thing is processed on a cloud server, and video is just streamed to you, whether you're on a computer, whether you have their micro console that they're going to be selling by the end of the year, or if you have the software on the iPad or the iTouch, iPhone. Now I'm going to say that all night, you realize. So basically, what they demo, and this is all just tech demos. They're not really officially announcing it's going to be on it yet, but they're showing, look, this is what we can do with this technology. But they had a kind of an awkward controller at the top of the screen. They were showing Borderlands being played. I think something like Dragon Age or something was being played on it too. And you can actually drop in and watch other people playing in the network. And they showed it like right up against the big screen, showing the same gameplay being used. It's pretty interesting. I mean, I just can't imagine you playing like Crysis or something that I've seen shown off. Actually, the guy that runs OnLive did a speech at, I want to say, MIT that I watched a few months ago, demoing it and explaining how the technology works, how the servers work and everything. I definitely recommend looking that up. If I can find a link, I might throw it on the site here. But interesting that they're pretty much pushing that you can play this on any computer, and they claim to have solved the problem of you push a button for playing these games, and the reaction time of that signal it reacting on the server and coming back into you in a video feed is dead on.
Right, and it does. That's amazing. It is asking for quite a bit of bandwidth for most people. I'm on cable, so I get probably like 6 megabits down nominal, but to play on live, you have to have at least 3 megabits down, and a pretty good upstream as well. So anybody on DSL is definitely out of the game.
Yeah. And interesting that this founders program is being sponsored by AT&T with all their data news lately.
Yeah, that's kind of weird because, I mean, if anything's going to put a hashing on their network, it's, streaming video games. It's going to put a hashing on everybody's network. But I would hope to say it'll put enough stress on networks that they'll realize that it might be time to upgrade. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Something else to consider about the OnLive service is it's bringing up a question that there's something else. I forget what it was. There's another service with similar issues as far as like streaming games is ownership, because you're paying for a subscription on OnLive, but you're also going to pay to quote unquote own the game. But I believe they said that if your account lays dormant for 12 months, you relinquish all games that you've purchased and you no longer own them.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's because I have not seen for the $15 you're paying just to be there, which includes, the service, which is like kind of a Xbox Live on crack as far as community features. Really interesting setup, and I mean, you watch other people's videos and comment on them, and you can record like stuff to the server, and it's available. A lot of really interesting social applications being used there. But I haven't seen any indication that, like, even if these games will be cheaper, like even if these same games that are available for our consoles may be like $30 or at least a little bit discounted. I imagine they're going to be PC prices. Given they look like they're mostly PC games. But yeah, that's a big hurdle, because we've been following Malenka, who was on here last week. We've talked about this for a long time since they first announced it, and like how that would work. And as soon as they announced that $15 price point monthly, that kind of broke even trying it out as far as we were concerned. So
yeah, I mean, it's an interesting kind of tug of war for price point, because you consider that thanks to cool things like OnLive, I'm sure competitors will roll out soon enough, you won't have to spend all that money on the completely ridiculous tower gaming PC, but you are going to be spending that money on a subscription service or buying the games at the same price, which is incredibly dumb. So the money goes somewhere, but I'd like to see a much stronger differentiation that would encourage people to like make it cheap enough so you're actually saving money instead of just pushing money around.
It's going to be an early adopter thing, as far as, that price point. I imagine when they get enough people and they get things figured out, maybe they'll have more that's wrong. Maybe they'll have more sponsorships like this one with AT&T to get people on there, But I think, it's a huge barrier for them. I would like to have done the math, but I wonder what you would compare the price you would pay per month. So that's $15 per month for 12 months, versus, paying, let's say, $400 when the Xbox first came out, and how many years that lasts for you, not counting the Red Wing of Death. But it's going to be an interesting, and I guess it's going to be all behind their marketing to actually get this out there and people trying it.
Yeah, I feel one of the biggest selling points will be people who have no need for a desktop computer and are tied to more mobile things like the iPad. I think as long as game developers can get their hands on around the idea of developing for so many different platforms, being anything with an Intel processor, as long as they make that a pretty smooth transition, and if they can make it look a lot better than like the controls for Borderland on the iPad, I just looked it up, like that kind of makes my brain hurt. If they can learn a little bit more about usability in that kind of content delivery system, I think it could really take off on things like tablet computers, of which we're going to see like an ungodly amount in the next year.
And then the other big thing, not big, it was kind of an under the radar thing, but as far as peripherals going, of course, we got Natal now Connect, PlayStation Move, and whatever the Wii's doing lately. Check out this picture here. This is called the Force Tech XIO. It's basically it's like a power glove on steroids, basically.
Wow.
This guy, there's video here on the link. If you go to delicious.com/awesomecast, we have a link to this. This guy is basically he's flicking his wrist like this. That doesn't look right. And playing this first-person shooter, and apparently that entire thing is a force feedback mechanism. So
yeah,
when
there's already one for your penis, isn't there? Come on.
Yeah,
that's the market. That's gonna go straight to porn.
That's fine. You know, it's a big market.
Fantastic. But they say it's going to be competitive pricing with like the Guitar Hero controllers and everything. So
competitive pricing, but like people want Guitar Hero. I don't want that thing.
Yeah. I mean, hey, come over and put this on. That's right off the bat. It looks like some weird exoskeleton.
If I wanted a vibrating cast, I could break my arm and then.
But it doesn't just vibrate.
Oh, it doesn't just vibrate.
No, I mean it gives you resistance. If you punch, you can get resistance when you hit something.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty amazing, actually. I mean, it really will go straight to porn, though. I mean, if they have that technology for your arm, imagine what other sensations you can create.
As long as it's compatible for the PC, where you don't have the restrictions on ratings like you do for the consoles, right? Or in Japan. Yeah. You know, it'll be over in Japan. So you just got to start importing some stuff. The other big news, of course, again, we'll probably talk about next week too. The iPhone. AT&T, Apple. I don't know actually who's to fault, but I know AT&T has put out a apology, or Apple has. I can't remember. But Rob, what's going on with that? You're kind of knee deep in the middle of this.
It's really amazing how much this went wrong. I think we touched on it last time as far as people were having trouble getting in on the pre-order. It was nuts. The Apple Store was having trouble taking orders because they couldn't communicate with AT&T's servers. AT&T's servers took a complete nosedive because it was such an insanely huge number of pre-orders. And then at one point, if you went into an Apple Store to pre-order it, the employees were writing down your information with a pen and paper, which is a good sign of like how bad things actually got. So once the dust cleared, AT&T stopped taking pre-orders because they realized they were in over their head, I guess. Apple's still taking pre-orders, but moved the ship date up into July 5th, I think. And they having a brain block. I'm reading and talking at the same time. It's always a bad idea. And once the dust cleared, they actually had to go back into all the orders because there seemed to be some kind of miscommunication in the ordering process, at which point they knew that they had sold X amount of phones, but they had no idea who they actually belonged to. So AT&T had to gather up a whole bunch of people and go through all these orders to try and figure out who ordered a phone, who accidentally hit submit twice, whose billing information was incorrect.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And for instance, a friend of mine that I work with, he had ordered one sometime in the afternoon, and then he got an email saying that his order had been canceled, but he went to an AT&T store the next day, and they said, your order was never canceled. And he was one of the first ones this happened to, but now it seems like this has happened to hundreds of people where even though they pre-ordered it last week, now they're getting an email saying that the order has been canceled, but there's still a pending charge in their bank account. And they're still trying to clean up the mess. And in addition to that, Apple is starting to screw with people's heads. And even though the launch date is Thursday, and I expected them to do the same thing they did with the iPad, as far as, yes, they're going to ship earlier, but they're going to be held at the distribution centers until launch day. It looks like the delivery dates on FedEx show a Wednesday delivery for a whole lot of people.
Wow.
But AT&T has issued some apologies, some explanations, and they're basically just telling everybody to bear with them while they try and clean up the mess.
How's your order going?
My order is okay. I haven't been accidentally canceled yet. It took an incredible amount of time and effort to get my order to go through. I tried it on... I tried AT&T.com, which was just no good at all. Like at one point I logged into my account and every piece of information where it would like fill in a data point, it was a paragraph of text shoved into a small box saying, sorry for the inconvenience, but the system is under maintenance right now. And when I went to Apple.com, it rejected my order probably like 15 times. I tried the App Store app on the iPhone, and it didn't work on there. And then eventually, sometime at like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, it accepted my order. And I did get my payment rejected like 3 times, even though it accepted it at first. And so whenever I got the email, I would click on the link that said like update your payment info, otherwise we're going to cancel your order. And I'd go into my Apple account, and it would have big red text saying that you need to update your information or this order will be canceled. And then I got 2 of those emails, and then I got a 3rd email saying that my order had been confirmed, and I didn't change anything. And then I got 1 more, I think, that said that my order was in danger of being canceled. And right now, my order says prepared for shipping.
Awesome.
So, yeah, real smooth, butter smooth.
And you're having it shipped to you, not to the Apple Store.
Right. Yeah, I'm having it shipped to my house.
Awesome. Well, for the rest of us, at least the rest of us that bought them last year, we did get an update yesterday, and I was utterly amazed that I was pushing the button, waiting for the 1 o'clock when it was supposedly, supposed to come through to their servers, and I got the iPhone 4 update pretty easily. About a 20-minute, half an hour download. It took forever to install, but only because it backs up for about a half an hour, which I always love. But and we talked about a little bit something in the pre-show. People were talking about their iPhones are crashing, or they have features that aren't there. Of course, the 3G users. I know, Rob, you said you didn't bother with yours since actually you're an older. No, you're 3G. You said, right?
Yeah, I'm a 3G, but I'm getting the new one in a couple days, and I figured, like, why go through the trouble? And also, if you have a 3G, instead of just updating it, it actually does a full restore on your phone. It wipes all the data clean, so you lose all your save data, all your game data. Everything is still synced into iTunes, but you have to pick back, find all the checkboxes, sync everything back. And a lot of people were having an incredible amount of trouble from PC side, of Mac side, computer side, all the way up to the phone. A lot of people had issues where the update had not only temporarily bricked their phone, but it had locked up their computer. It had locked up iTunes. Some people, it took something like 4 hours for the update to finish on the phone. And when it finished, they're encountering all kinds of errors. I think on Tech News today on the Twit Network, they had the best metaphor for the 3G problem, which was that installing iOS 4 on a 3G was kind of like shoving Einstein's brain into a fish.
Well, luckily I have a 3GS, and I can definitely attribute it to having an Edge phone. And when they got the update that you could have apps and everything that came with the 3G, that's kind of the renewed feeling I have on this thing. I feel like I can last another year until iPhone 5 at this point. So, we'll see. Of course, the release is going to be this week, and I guess we're going to have a review on that iPhone for next week, Rob. Then. Yes. I had to think about it. I'm actually. Irony, I should be getting the phone on Thursday or Friday, depending on when the FedEx guy comes. I might be at work when he comes on Thursday. Assuming it comes on Thursday, it might come on Wednesday, or it might just magically materialize on my desk at this point. I wouldn't be surprised. But I'm going camping this weekend, and the phone will be staying in the car at the very least. So I probably won't really touch it very much until Monday. I will touch that phone quite a bit on Monday. I can guarantee that. So awesome. I will have my opinions and notes and fun things to talk about on Tuesday. Awesome. You looked out better than Malengo, who's in Africa right now during this launch week.
Ooh.
Yeah, and he doesn't come back till second week of July. So, all right. One last story here was submitted by Jenny Roth at Jennana. I don't know, how does she pronounce it?
Janana, like Jenny and banana.
Janana, I should know that. 37. There was an interesting story. I think we all heard this on some other podcast before, but thank you for re-bringing it to my attention there, Jenny. So Think Geek, if anybody recalls that good old holiday April Fools, they were selling unicorn meat. And trying to bring up the story here. I don't have the right thing up.
Fresh unicorn meat?
I think allegedly. I don't know. It was like a Spam can, so assume
it was canned, but it was canned fresh.
Canned unicorn meat is the worst.
So, and along with it, they had some terminology on there. It said something like the other white meat or something to that effect. Well, it looks like recently they've received a cease and desist order. This is apparently, I don't know why this is coming out now, but it's dated May 5th, 2010. A full over a month afterwards, and of course this is the big story now, so I guess they're finally pushing through with this. 3 months after the thing has been up, and I'm sure it's not even on their site now. So yeah, cease and desist order for ThinkGeek for an April Fool's joke from the National Pork Board, who coined the phrase "the other white meat," which allegedly they're getting rid of anyways.
Yeah, they basically received a cease and desist for using the phrase "the other white meat." And where is it? There's an awesome quote in here. Scott Kaufman, the president and CEO of GeekNet, which owns ThinkGeek, is quoted as saying, "It was never our intention to cause a national crisis and misguide American citizens regarding the differences between the pig and the unicorn."
This is a great group of guys here at ThinkGeek.
Yeah, absolutely. And I almost feel like this is one of those things where a group of lawyers is just sifting through identities that have picked up on their their properties, things like the other white meat, and they just saw it and they didn't read it, they didn't look at it, they didn't consider it, they just flushed it right through. And I'm sure once this hit the New York Times, the folks at the National Pork Board. That's exciting. I wish I worked on the National Pork Board. I'm sure once it hits the media, somebody probably got a phone call and said, "You did what? Really? It was a joke. Come on."
Kind of in related news, I actually had this story earmarked for the wrestling show later, but kind of along the same lines. There's actually a representative from PETA that sent a message to WWE because of somebody they let go recently was a vegan. So partially related. So, that's the news we had marked for this week, I think, for the most part. So let's real quick talk about our sponsor, of course. Big fans of them here, myself, Rob, and everybody else. A lot of people on the Sorgatron Media Network here. Of course, we have a special offer, audiblepodcast.com/Sorgatron Media, where you can get one free audiobook, cancel at any time. They have a free 14-day trial for you to check out all the stuff, what's available, everything, all the free stuff, old radio, BBC stuff. There's all kinds of interviews on there, old speeches, presidential speeches. I know they've talked about in debates. A lot of extras for what you get there. I was actually talking to the pastor Ryan Phipps down at Discovery Church about it this past weekend, and he uses it. I think he has the 2 at a time plan, and he loves it, and still runs through that. So. And of course, this week we like to give you something to look forward to if you're a fan of the same things along the lines of what we are. One of the first things I listened to when I was getting into audiobooks was called Rework by the gentleman at 37 Signals. Of course, people know for Basecamp and other products they have. Really good, kind of. Here's the back of the cover here. Some thoughts like ASAP is poison. Underdo the competition. Meetings are toxic, which I'm sure a lot of people in the corporate setting will love that concept. Fire the workaholics. Emulate drug dealers. Planning is guessing, and it's really good. If you go over to 37signals.com/rework, there's actually a few promotional videos there that kind of give you a gist of what this book is going to be like. The guys, one of the guys from 37 Signals actually read the book. For the audio version. I actually read this in conjunction with Malengo that was on the show last week, who actually bought the real book, and it was really fun to compare notes and with wherever you might be working now or what you might be looking to in the future. So check that out. Rework from the founders of 37 Signals, and you can pick that up. It is available, I believe, at audiblepodcast.com/Sorgatron Media. So go check that out. Thanks them for taking us on as a sponsor. So, well, it's time for our discussion for the week. And actually, this is one that John and myself kind of started this past weekend when we ran into each other about podcasting. So pretty much, this is going to be very self-serving. Oh, we lost him a second. Say that again, John?
Who did we lose?
Oh, I don't know. You cut out there.
Rob, you're not moving enough. I can't tell if you're alive.
There you go.
I'm here.
Go ahead. You were saying?
Well, I'm saying we're podcasting right now. I think it's fun. That's my take.
I was going to say this is a very
and that's the commentary from John.
There we
folks. It's been
go.
fun.
And that's the end of the conversation we started. Well, I think it's going to be... Go ahead. I think we have a slight delay with him.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're delayed. Maybe you're too fast. What do you want me to do?
All right. Well, we'll give this a shot. Well, basically, what we were talking about podcasting, and I think John, you brought up some interesting comments about where podcasting is. I didn't know if you wanted to start with that there.
Yeah, but can you hear? Can we have a conversation, or should I?
That came back pretty quick, actually.
Okay. Yeah, well, with our own show, we're kind of on hiatus right now. That's really my fault. I just haven't put up the last show, and G stopped bugging me about it. We, with our show, have really plateaued as far as our listenership. I don't know how you're doing with the Wrestling Mayhem show that's been around. I think our shows have been around for almost as long.
We're approaching 4.5 years, I think.
Yeah. And, we've obviously all grown from when we started, but we've kind of plateaued to a point where within the last, year or two, we haven't had any significant growth. And to me, it doesn't feel as relevant as it once did. If we're not picking up new listeners, what's the relevance to doing this every week, to all the work that it takes to do this every single week? And what is that noise?
I'm not sure.
Okay. I thought maybe it was snowing over where you are. I'm inside, for the record.
My mic is pretty sensitive, and my Drobo just fired up. That might be what you heard.
Okay.
That could be it. Yeah, I know with the Wrestling Mayhem show, well, we've definitely seen a bit of a drop in the audio numbers, which have always been kind of high, but the video numbers are growing. But of course, we made that shift here at the beginning of the year to doing the video like we do
and
this.
I mean, that's something that we're considering too.
Yeah,
we're not gonna stop doing the show. We're going to come back, but it's going to change. Whether that's short video episodes or whether it's doing it live like this in a chat room. I'm not sure exactly. I'm actually looking for feedback. How have you found that when you switched to video, you grew in listenership or in viewership?
I don't know. It was another avenue for people to find you on, and especially we're using Blip TV for all these video casts, and they have a really good kind of like we talked about Tube Mogul a couple years ago at PodCamp. I know I've dove a little bit into that for distributing my shows for a little bit, then found that they've joined up with Blip. So that's really helped there. It gives you a lot of places, like you have opportunities if your show is good enough and is proved to get on stuff like Boxy and Roku, like the Wrestling Mayhem show is, even though I can't approve any of my other shows for those, which is interesting. I'm not sure about their approval process with that. But
well, it might be the length of time of the show.
That's true too. We are, especially with Mayhem show, we are a pretty long form show, but if Leo the Pork can do it, why can't we? But aside from that, I feel like our community, regardless of the numbers, is stronger than it ever has been.
Yeah, well, you see, here's a difference between our shows is you have a niche community, and quite frankly, I'm jealous of that. We have obviously the GLBT community and allies. We have a lot of straight listeners as well, but that's not a niche exactly. That's a large portion of the population, and that's one thing that we're considering is maybe finding a niche within that. When we started the show, we didn't have any goals. We just started the show as sort of a variety show, as a hobby. We didn't have any goals to monetize the show, to ever get big. We didn't know that podcasting could ever get big. So, now we're kind of looking back and saying, okay, here's where we've taken the show so far without any plan. Where do we...
it was a little bit of audio problems there, but I think you're going to come back here in a second. The same thing kind of with the Mayhem show. We had issues. We really just kind of started as a conversation, and it grew from there. And you take a sample of the show from year to year, and it is probably completely different in style and and
same here, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean it's something that we've definitely evolved over the years. But I thought you said something interesting about you mentioned what makes you put the rest of the work into it, and I guess it's how do you measure your success? Again, something I struggle with. I'll look at the numbers and it's like, well, I'm not getting hundreds of thousands of anything, I'm never going to be able to get something together to support these shows, but again, the community seems to be very strong, and it seems like we're getting off on the right foot with this show, and as long as it's something that people want to hear, they'll find it. And I guess the other point is reaching out. If you're doing something good and only a handful of people, are finding it, maybe there's something more that we could be doing with this to get the word out.
Well, I
think we're still having a little bit of trouble with him.
We always have trouble with John.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm nothing but trouble today. So. I wanted to ask you guys, actually, however did you get AwesomeCast.com?
Oh, that would be Rob.
Did you own that for years, just waiting?
I bought it maybe like 4 years ago, I think.
Really?
Yeah, I had AwesomeCast was a thing. There was like maybe 10 episodes or something. But the two guys I did it with, we had conflicting schedules, so it just fell apart.
Okay, so when I looked on iTunes and I found another AwesomeCast, that was you.
Possibly. I think it's actually like expired. I think when things sit for a certain period in the iTunes podcast store, they disappear.
Definitely.
But there are a bunch of people in there that have things that are variations on AwesomeCast. Like I think there is like the AwesomeCast show or something like that, and they probably are very angry with me.
That's how it works. That's how the internet works.
Well, I took a quick look at that. I don't see anybody I'm really worried about. Like anybody has like 6 episodes or something out there, so
Yeah, nobody's really established. So.
But hey, that's a perfect jumping on point for this conversation. Now we're back from our technical break. So where were we before? We're talking about community and everything. Well, Rob, you're somebody that's had a toe in the pond as far as podcasting. And now back with it. I mean, and as a listener, how do you feel the podcast scene is out there? I mean, I know we listen to a lot of CNET, Twit stuff, a lot of the bigger kind of people that came from TV or print media, actually.
Yeah, I mean, most of the people involved with Twit originally started on Tech TV, and they've moved on to CNET's Buzz Out Loud, and then some of them have like Tom Merritt have come back to This Week in Tech. I think that the podcasting scene it's kind of spread into a couple different intentions, I guess you could say. There's a lot of people doing things that are niche appeal, topical, hobbyist kind of podcasts, sort of like, hey, let's get together and talk about, model airplanes. And then there's people covering the news and people trying to get closer and closer to what we consider, what we used to call new media, but what today is really actual media. And you have guys like Leo Laporte really pushing the limits, like Tech News Today. And he just purchased a studio in New York City, where the Foursquare guys used to be, I believe, and he's looking to basically create a morning news show, I believe, is what he said. And that's something that, like, as far as I don't watch the local news usually. I keep up on it online, but it's not necessarily something that's critical for my career, but tech stuff is. And I love the idea of being able to tune into something like the usual Good Morning America type show, but more tuned to my needs. And I think a lot more shows like that are coming out that are taking the old idea of getting your news delivered to you daily, like newspaper form or like Good Morning America, but they're being tuned to different audiences. And there's so many people out there that you can have so many different outlets and competitors for what you're interested in.
And of course, and again, with me, like kind of my similar competition, the closest thing I could think of is, of course, Between the Ropes, which is actually a radio show that just rebroadcasts their stuff to podcast. And that's kind of the official professional example of what we do with the wrestling show. My music show is kind of its own thing. I don't know. I'm kind of finding what the audience is for a kind of more straight music sampling show like that. And this show, we really, obviously we're influenced by those shows you just mentioned with the tech sector, and of course there's a lot more people out there to listen to them. So I guess the question is, what makes us different that we can still stay afloat with this high-end competition?
Well, keep in mind now, podcasting is now simply the technology.
Just technology, yeah.
I mean, it used to be a format. Can you?
You're cutting out a little bit.
Man.
And this is the problems that Leo Laporte doesn't have that we still do.
Because we don't have like $200,000 worth of recording equipment.
No, we don't. You'd laugh if you saw this set up on this end.
I don't know what I'm doing. I usually have DJ G here, and I just speak into the mic, and he turns the knobs and whatnot. There's so many knobs. It's incredible.
So it's also a euphemism. You are right about the format thing, definitely, though. I mean, podcasting used to be a scene, it used to be a thing, it used to be a format. And these days, it's mostly a presentation of the recording medium. Just like when you say that you have a podcast, it might mean that you have a radio show that's also released digitally. It might mean that you have something that you produce digitally and is also, broadcast on public radio or something like that.
And then there's us, that we do this show and we put it out it's on YouTube, it's on Blip, it's on iTunes, it's on I think these things get on the Internet Archive I have set up for at least one of these shows. I mean, I'm really surprised looking at the numbers, seeing who's coming from where. I mean, I think podcasts in general were used to, John, you mentioned this the other day about how everybody used to use iTunes and podcast directories to get their stuff.
Yeah. Well, iTunes has never been good.
Oh, it's a mystery. You put something in there and you cross your fingers. And I can't manage it.
No. And, I'm surprised to hear that they actually delete shows, because I've seen shows that have been stale for months higher up.
I cut out again.
Yeah, I think we're losing his audio.
I think you're peeking out on that end or something.
Oh, I don't know.
Try turning your main down a little bit on the board.
I'm gonna turn this down.
That'll sound a little better.
I feel bad for all the editing you're gonna have to do, Mike. I really do.
Who says I'm going to edit this? Have you seen the other shows I do? Quick and dirty. That's my podcasting philosophy right there, and that's why I've stuck around for so long and do so much at a time. Quick and dirty. Whatever can get it out there. We don't claim to be professionals. Stuff happens. Computers have been known to catch on fire in the studio. I am not lying.
Now that's a podcast.
Now that's a podcast. That's dedication to a podcast, to have a fire extinguisher nearby. Where's that fire extinguisher, by the way? So, we do different kinds of stuff. Like John, you do more of an edited kind of cleaner product than I do, definitely.
Yeah, the audio is a lot better than this on our show, despite the fact that I'm using the same exact equipment. G told me to look at these colors, so I'm looking to see if the color is red. That's bad.
Yes,
apparently.
that's bad.
That's bad. Is that better now that I turned the knobby thing?
Yeah, you're level. You're not cutting out. It's great.
Awesome. Okay, I'm just going to talk like this then.
All right.
What was the question?
I'm just basically stalling for you to come back, but
okay. Let's talk about podcasting now.
Let's start the show.
We got 10 minutes to get this all in. Let's rock it.
The state of podcasting, where we are now.
Yeah.
And that's where we are now. We're at a point where it is more about the technology, where there's no difference when you say a podcast between a professionally produced show and, I'd say this, but we're somewhere in the middle. There's, on the low end, it's the kid with a $20 webcam mic, That's a podcast too.
There's people,
how do we differentiate?
You have stuff like TalkShoe and Blog Talk Radio that if you listen to, I haven't heard a show on there that does not sound like they've been doing it over the phone line. Which
because the free accounts on a lot of these networks require you to use a phone.
Yeah, exactly, and there's only so much quality to that. They're definitely. It's more of kind of what we do here with the freeform live thing. You mess up, it's not going away because they're not having the opportunity to edit it.
Right.
You're gonna say something?
I was agreeing. Adam Curry once said that, and I don't remember what he said, but it was something along the lines of that the art is in knowing what mistakes to keep.
Yes.
And, you want to hear a little bit of the live aspect of a show like this. That's part of the beauty and the appeal of podcasting versus, radio or network. But you don't want to hear too much. So, and this show might require a little bit of editing, but you're welcome for all of the mistakes that I've made today.
Oh, we'll see. Another interesting thing to that was, I was actually thinking about this as, since we've talked on Sunday and preparing for this, I had the opportunity to talk to an author that was actually working on a book about podcasting. I don't know if, John, you were there. I know the guys from Should I Drink That were there. For that, he was just doing.
Oh yeah,
we met at this coffee shop, like up around Shady Side, Squirrel Hill, one time, and talked to this guy. I never heard of anything after that. But we described how we did the Wrestling Mayhem show with this sort of format and everything, and live, and with the chat room over there that I'm ignoring because I'm turning all these knobs. But that's why I have an intern now to keep an eye on them. But he said this is the most social media sounding thing that he had heard of, like from the people that have done podcasts, and that's true. Most of the stuff you hear as podcasts, that are claiming to be the new media, social media, seem to be, we're trying to be what we hear on the radio, as opposed to the more interactive aspect that you.
Well, that's like the first movies were like filmed stage plays.
Exactly. So you're imitating what you know on a new format. So.
So are we moving anywhere though? I mean, what are the new movies? What are the new podcasts? Are we heading in a direction? Is there a trend that you notice?
The trend is more of this, to be honest. Like more of the using the live chat room, and it's more kind of bells and whistles. It's not as accessible to everybody. But I think the people that are kind of in it for the long haul are starting to figure it out. You have stuff, more networks kind of coming together, like the stream.net is an interesting concept. Again, that does all the game show, which is on revision 3 now, that got picked up. They do pretty much a live thing like this, but a lot more looser and with a lot more alcohol. And then they edit it down to a nice digestible half-hour piece.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of kind of cross-section of we're paying attention to that audience that's right there in our chat room right there, but still in the middle of that producing a pretty good grade show, that still calls that out to that audience.
And that's well said. And I think that, that might be the direction that we would go in with the G Spod, that might make it seem more relevant to us rather than just kind of recording in a vacuum, with no one listening, but having some immediate feedback as well as going through the editing process.
Mm-hmm. I definitely know, like even a couple of weeks ago when I thought a show was going horribly, horribly bad, long time, longer listeners know exactly what I was talking about. But the chat room was blowing up for the rest of the night, and I knew that we had something good on our hands, no matter how embarrassed I felt. So I'll put myself out there for that, So.
Yeah.
And you talked a little bit about, as we mentioned before, a little bit about why are we podcasting, and then a little thought goes into, what makes us decide to do this,
Well, for the social media cool kids like us who have been doing it for 4.5 years now, for many of us, it's a hobby, and there's just a love. I mean, as far as hobbies go, it's probably, not any more time consuming than your average hobby. It's probably no more expensive than building model rockets or whatever. But there's been a movement and sort of a drive in the community to monetize your content. I mean, you remember PodCamp Pittsburgh 1. Mm-hmm. There were sessions on monetizing content that went overtime because people thought, oh, wow, we're doing this new thing that can make us money, even though that wasn't the driving motivation for most of us.
Yeah, and I know I was in that session, and I think I had a talk with a couple people, including Justin says, well, what happened to doing podcasting just because you love to do podcasting,
Right.
Some of us are, they're still around and kind of figure out, well, we're doing this for this long, can we just kind of get support for the show, That's why you see we're talking about Audible on here, and again, I'm trying to adopt, I'm not going to talk about crap that I don't believe in, a lot, Leo Laporte does the same thing, and does very well with it, and I believe in that philosophy as far as that, if you're going to try to go down that road, but it's really a lot of experimentation. Let's see how far we can take this is kind of my mindset. So.
And I think a lot of the best podcasts that I've listened to they're a combination of people who love what they do, but it's also very honest conversation. Like you look at something like Spodcast, which is Kevin Smith and Scott Mosier, and that was born out of the fact that every week they would sit down and have a conversation, and eventually Kevin Smith was like, you know what, these conversations are kind of awesome. Maybe we should record them and share them with people.
Which, to be honest, is how this show started with you and I, Rob, and how the Mayhem show has started. These are two shows that started from we were having conversations at a party and decided what would happen if we recorded this,
Exactly.
So, and it seems to worked out so far. So,
yep.
Well, thanks to some of our glitches, we are running low on time here. But I want to thank you, John. We just started a discussion, of course, which I think we started at PodCamp 1, to be honest, for all of us. So,
yeah, this is going to be an ongoing discussion, I think, for a while.
We'd love to have you back here, maybe in a month or so, or a couple of weeks, or depending on how the schedule works out for you and us, or for who we get on. We'd love to.
When you figure out your audio, did I figure it out?
Oh yeah, you're good. You're great. For the last 15 minutes, you've been great over there.
Awesome. All right, this has been great practice. So let's start the show now.
All right. Well, John, where can people find what you're working on these days?
They can go to avenuedesignstudios.com, and that's plural because I couldn't get the singular. And I'm actually going to be updating that with a couple of articles in Pittsburgh Magazine and something else. Oh, this, actually, I'll put on there as well, and some new work. So that's, where they can find my work. And, of course, the gspod.com is the podcast, and there's nothing recent on there now, as I explained, but we'll be doing that again pretty soon, and I think it will be a format more similar to this.
Excellent. I'm glad to give you some inspiration, I guess. And we actually did just lose your video at that time, so.
No, I blacked out.
Oh, you did it?
No, I didn't. I didn't do anything. Okay. I don't know what I'm doing.
Fantastic. Rob, what's going on with you?
No time, too much internet things, work things. I'm going camping this weekend, like I said.
Fantastic.
Which I desperately need. I'm like a hair short of a burnout right now. Yeah, you can find me on the Twitters, as always, at ROBJDLC. Also, robjdlc.com. We should also mention that we have a new email address. Well, sort of a new email address. If you send anything to the email address we've given you in the past, we have received it. But from henceforth, we will be contact@awesomecast.com. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, things you want us to talk about on the show. You can submit stories like Jenny did. You can complain about things. Feel free to make fun of John's inability to use technology if you want. We can pass that on.
That's fine.
But please, write us a letter, fox us, Pony Express if you like.
Yes, I apologize for the video funness this week. Of course, we've been getting some new hardware here in the studio, and we kind of got screwed over on one of our orders. But tomorrow is the thing that I needed to make this work tonight. So, and in the meantime, I did get my keyboards, which, fun, look at the size of those letters right there. Apparently, I got the Easy View for Grandpa keyboards when I was looking for the cheapest option at Walmart. So, yeah, I was like, it came in the box today, and I'm like,
Sorg, it's not the size of your keys that matter.
Thank you. But other than that, you can check me out, sorgatron.com. Of course, check out what else is going on with our other shows at sorgatronmedia.com, including meeting us right here, 7 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays, to join us here live in the chat room so you can make fun of us in person. Text. And we are working on a Google Voice voicemail system. I'm trying to figure out a clever word that fits into numerals. So aside from that, please thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, John Carman, for joining us this week. We hope to have you back in the future to have the rest of this conversation. And
anytime.
Check us out, AwesomeCast.com, and we'll see you guys next week.
See ya.
I can get louder.
All right, what was our last
I've got knobs and twiddly bits over here that G showed me how to turn.
Are you currently turning them?
No. Should I?
Hold on. I saw a setting.